Okay, you've got around $700 to spend. You want an interesting watch. You'd like a diver and you need it to be unique. You want something Swiss made and you don't want to have to compromise on materials or movements. Does that sound like a bit of a tall order? Can't say I blame you. I'm Cameron Martell with Watches You Can Afford, but I'm not here to talk about me. I am here to talk about this. This is the LIV GX-Diver, and this particular model that I have here, which my camera refuses to focus on, is the full lume dial. That's right, the entire dial lights up as soon as the lights go out. This 41mm dive watch you can grab just as I showed you with the rubber bracelet there for $640, and by rubber bracelet I mean rubber band. If you want a steel bracelet, that version is going to cost you $690. 300 meters of water resistance, an ETA 28-24-2 movement, LIV's signature sandwich dial, excellent craftsmanship, and did I mention an American-owned but Swiss-made watch? Sounds pretty good, right? Let's spend a little bit less time checking out my COVID cut, as beautiful as these lockdown locks are, and spend a little more time checking out this excellent dive watch. Let's get to it. I want to call out that LIV invited me to do this shoot and video as a paid gig, so please keep that in mind as you watch. Now, I stand behind my thoughts, but in today's era of fake news, fake reviews, fake interviews, you should know the biases behind the content you consume. Let's start with the dial, which is, true to its name, completely covered in lume. A good diver should have sufficient lume, and the GX-Diver Full Lume takes it to that next level. Now, along with the lume, you get the signature GX finishings, a sandwich dial, which is kind of unique, kind of interesting, not common, hence unique, and I love it because it really provides a lot of depth relative to other dials which are flat or have a little bit of texture, but the sandwich dial brings a whole other layer, a new dimension to the dial. Pardon the multiple puns, I regret nothing. It's also got cutout hour markers at 6 and 12 o'clock, a date window at 3 o'clock, and the applied chrome lume combo markers for the rest of the hour spots. Now, the seconds hand is orange with a white tip, which, if I'm honest with you, kind of weirds me out because the white tip gets completely lost on the all-white dial. Now, that said, you can see the rest of that hand nice and easy, but it does seem kind of odd to me that we'd have the white tip on a white watch. The LIV livery, the logo right below 12 o'clock, also tastefully applied, and I really like the rich orange, matches the second hand nicely. And I like that outside of a small little square that surrounds the dial on the hour markers, there's really not a lot going on for color. It's monochromatic, so the color that is there really pops. Now, like the Rebel and the GX1A that I've reviewed before, the GX-Diver goes all in on this cutout sandwich combo. So the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock markers are actually carved out of the dial, right? And so you can see that depth in some of these shots that I've taken here. This depth is really nice. It completely prevents the dial from looking flat. And this effect only gets more prominent as you increase the viewing angle. It's particularly cool when you're looking at the watch in a dark setting because the lume effect really pops as well. I really quite like this dial, as you can tell. Now, like other LIVs I've worn and reviewed, the finishing on the dial is excellent. There isn't a speck of dust or an imperfection to be found, and thanks to my trusty Tamron 90mm macro lens, I looked and I didn't find anything. Now, good divers should have an easily legible bezel, and that is again the case with the ceramic bezel used here on the GX-Diver. Now, the ceramic bezel is using BGW9 Swiss SuperLuminova for the markers. Day or night, above or below the waterline, you're always able to tell the time. Now, I do want to mention that this bezel is pretty securely affixed. It's not loose, it doesn't wobble, it clicks with an extremely satisfying and tactile click. It's very high quality. That said, I did notice that when my hands were wet, it was actually kind of hard to turn because of how secure it feels. I think if you're wearing gloves and you're actually in a dive scenario and you're using that bezel for what the bezel's really meant to do, I think if you're wearing gloves, it should be fine, but just keep that in mind. I have noticed the more I've turned it, it has loosened up like a little bit. I do find it easier to turn, but it has never got to that point where it's almost too easy to turn, so it feels good. At 41mm, the case is far from overbearing. With the rubber strap affixed, the 41mm sizes down a little bit. It makes it wearable for nearly anyone. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know that I am a card-carrying member of the Wimpy Wristed Parade, and I can wear this watch easily. With the bracelet, it is a bit bigger. but with the rubber strap, it feels pretty good. 41mm is probably the biggest I would wear, but you could easily, I mean, if you've got bigger wrists than I do, you could wear this thing and it'll look awesome, honestly. Now you couldn't achieve 300 meters of water resistance like reasonably without a screw down crown, and the one on the LIV here is really easy to use. It doesn't stick. It feels really solid. It's nice. It's easy to find the detents where you can, you know, the position 1, 2, 3 of that dial, so you, or sort of the movement, so you can adjust it easily, which is nice because sometimes, you know, it's hard to find those. Both the bezel and the crown feel super good when you're using it. Very tactile experience. I like that word tactile, right? It's like a satisfying button press. Now, as you'd rightly expect from a nearly $700 Swiss-made micro brand, Sapphire is the material of choice for the crystal, both top and bottom, which is going to help with durability. It's very important on a dive watch, but I think it's just important on a watch in general. There's really not a reason for any watch that's more than a couple of $100 not to come with Sapphire. And when I review watches that don't come with it, I rightly give them the gears. Although, you know, that does not a bad watch make, but certainly I'd love to see Sapphire on more watches, and LIV only uses Sapphire, which is great. The crystal is treated with a double layer of anti-reflective coating, and as a result, you can see this watch any angle, anytime. It's all good, and it certainly helps that it's got this monochromatic motif. I like the anti-reflective coating, and not just because I am a bit of a watch photographer. Now, I have to admit that over time, my tastes have steered toward the less is more situation, and in that area, I really appreciate this flat white sandwich dial. I like the orange logo in the seconds hand, how it pops off. I do like the monochrome quite a lot. I think it's very clean, and I think that overall, this watch looks quite good. It is definitely not a peacock watch. If you're looking for that, you probably want to move on. Although I think it's worth mentioning that other versions of the GX Diver are certainly more ostentatious. You can get a Harvest Moon version, for example, and if I recall correctly, they actually made that Harvest Moon color like bespoke for LIV, right? But like that is it's like a gunmetal gray case and bracelet, ceramic black bezel, and then you got this crazy orange dial, right? You can get cobalt blue and all other stuff as well. Point is, there's options, but I like the Lume white. So when the team at LIV was like, which one do you want? I basically like screamed, shouted through the Zoom call, give me that Lume. And it certainly scratched the itch. Thank you very much. Now the model I have, number 58 of 1000, has awesome alignment on that bezel, by the way. Not a week goes by that I don't find somebody asking about bezel alignment and tolerances in a Facebook group. And whether or not the watch that they have, whether it's, you know, a popular brand or a micro brand, whatever, is up to snuff, right? But I think even the most diligent of the detail-minded will be hard-pressed to find something out of tolerance here. The GX Diver is rocking an ETA 2824-2 automatic movement. Now, to paraphrase my good buddy Bill Gates, we're on a first-name basis, he and I, the ETA 24-2 ought to be enough for just about anybody. It's the standard bearer for Swiss-made watches that want a reliable and accurate movement without unnecessary faff, decor, or pinpoint accuracy. Now, that's not to say that the ETA 2824-2 is inaccurate, by the way. The standard version of the movement, a version of which is used here, is accurate to anywhere between plus or minus 30 seconds per day. But you can get Elabore or chronometer versions, which up the features and a little bit of complexity and accuracy down to just a few seconds per day. Now, it's important to note that LIV self-calibrates in-house the movements before they ship them out to plus or minus 5 seconds per day. Now, I've got a few 2824-2s in my collection, and they're all pretty accurate within that 10 to 15 second per day mark. And the LIVs that I have, and there's 4 of them now, more accurate than that. LIV has chosen to keep the styling of the movement very understated, and thus you're not going to find any Geneve strips or blued screws, pearl effects, or any other decor on the movement. So outside of the LIV livery on the rotor, the movement is left to stand on its own, and honestly, I think for under $700, that's perfectly fine. The 2824-2 is a good looking movement, and the finishing here certainly stands up to scrutiny. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's always cool when you see Geneve strips on a watch, right? Or you see like a custom carve out of the rotor or something like that. But I think that adds to cost, and we have to remember this is a Swiss-made watch from an American-owned brand, and so you kind of have to make decisions, I think, on where you're going to invest that money. And I'd rather it be on the top of the dial than the bottom, than the movement, you know, and I think the Lume really does it. Now, what's really interesting to me, notable, is probably the better word, LIV backs the GX Diver with a 5-year warranty, which is more than double the industry average, like a good warranty in the industry of 2 years. It's more than double that. you don't see 5-year warranties very often, to be honest. You can get it with your choice of strap or bracelet, and pricing bounces between $640 and $690 US, depending on whether you're getting the rubber strap or the metal bracelet. There's also canvas and a couple of other options there for you. If full lume isn't for you, I did mention before, there is 6 other colorways that you can choose. So, you know, go buck wild, but come on, man, who doesn't love a full lume dial? Anyways, thank you for watching this watch you can afford quick take, and thank you very much to the team at LIV for shipping me the GX Diver for the past month so I could wear it, photograph it, take it places. Now, if you're into infrequent but honest watch reviews, consider subscribing to Watches You Can Afford, and you can check us out, all of our reviews in way more detail, including super high resolution photos at watchesyoucanafford.com. All the photography, everything we do is bespoke to us. We are not beholden to brands, so if you're looking for a watch and you want an actual honest opinion, I would love it if you would check us out. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.